You're watching Plain Speak. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. Now, during his visit to the United States, Congress leader and leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi met with US lawmakers. Interestingly, the attendees included Ilhan Omar, known for her strong anti-India stance. Notorious for repeatedly undermining India's interests on multiple fronts, Omar has always sparked controversy by aligning with anti-India narratives. This meeting has raised eyebrows, particularly with the BJP arguing that Gandhi, as the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, should have distanced himself from a US politician who has repeatedly tried to harm India's interests on critical issues like Kashmir. Moreover, Rahul Gandhi's speech has given momentum to Sikh separatism. This as pro-Khalistan activist and founder of Sikhs for Justice, Singh has backed Rahul Gandhi's statements on Sikhs in India. In fact, Pannu said that Rahul Gandhi's quip on the existential threat to Sikhs in India was bold and historically accurate. The leader of opposition has also indicated how he is not in sync with Prime Minister Modi's policies on China. Gandhi alleges that Chinese troops had taken control over Indian territory in Ladakh, the size of Delhi. He in fact talks about 4,000 kilometers in India that is now being occupied by China. And now the Home Minister Amit Shah has sent a stern message to Mr. Gandhi. He says that as long as the BJP is there, neither can anyone abolish reservation nor can anyone mess with the nation's security. Whether it is attacking religious freedom in India, the issue of reservation, the fight for democracy, or comparing RSS with Muslim Brotherhood, is Rahul Gandhi taking the anti-India narrative a bit too far, one that's setting a dangerous precedent as the Indian Prime Minister gears for the UNGA, that too in an election year in the United States. And so like every visit, Rahul Gandhi's this visit has also been marked by controversies and he has been accused of betraying India at the global platform. Why so? Because Rahul Gandhi first also met Ilhan Omar. She's known for her anti-India and pro-Pak stance. Rahul Gandhi has also been misleading as it comes on to the issue of China. He says that India has handed over manufacturing to China, and not just India, even the West. While the fact is that China's GDP actually continues to decline each year, and China's share in India's import continues to decline as well. Rahul Gandhi has further added that China has occupied land the size of Delhi and Ladakh, but the government claims that China has not encroached upon a single inch of land under the Modi dispensation. Rahul Gandhi's fear-mongering also asks, can Sikhs go to the Gurudwara? Can they don the kada, turban? All of these questions have been posed for him by him as far as the Sikhs are concerned. The fact is that nearly 3,000 Sikhs were actually killed under the Congress regime during the 1984 riots. Rahul Gandhi doubts the poll process as well. He says that Lok Sabha elections were not fought on a level playing field. And so the leader of opposition, Rahul Gandhi, during his visit to the United States, has also met with several US lawmakers at the Rayburn House office building in Washington. Rahul also met with US Congress members Ilhan Omar, who's known for her anti-India stance. Let's also give you a timeline. In September 2023, he's condemned India on the Niger killings, called on US government to back Canadian investigation, which is why Ilhan Omar in fact becomes so controversial. In June 2023, she also boycotted Prime Minister Modi's address in the US Congress. In June of 2022, she introduced the House resolution to declare that India is a country of particular concern, this alleging persecution of minorities. In April 2022, she visited the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, even met with Shehbaz Sharif and Imran Khan to reportedly discuss human rights violation in Jammu and Kashmir. In October of 2019, she condemned the NRC in Assam, said that this is how Rohingya genocide all began. And in August of 2019, she has alleged that human rights violation and de-escalation in Kashmir should take place, especially after application of Article 370. In May of 2019, she's alleged a spread of violent Hindu nationalism in India. As far as Rahul Gandhi's remark on Sikhs being unsafe in India is concerned, it's also been endorsed by none other than the Khalistan sympathizer Singh, who has been spewing hatred against India from foreign soil. Rahul claims that Sikhs in India are unsafe Panu, who has been seeking to divide India further, backing Rahul's claim, says that there is existential threat to Sikhs in India. But journalist Balinder Singh Virmani, a Sikh journalist himself, has countered Rahul Gandhi. He says that he has not faced any such situation, even as Rahul Gandhi goes on to say that his party is fighting for all religions. Journalist Balinder Singh Virmani says that there is no threat to any religion in India and everyone is free to practice their religion. That is why the big question that we are debating today is Rahul Gandhi undermining India at the global forum. We will be asking this question and posing it to our guests in just a bit.
उनके साथ जब राहुल गांधी दिखते हैं तो देश का ही नहीं हर देशवासी का भी अपमान करते हैं और मैं इसकी घोर निंदा करता हूं।
इनकी सदस्यता भी उसी तरह रद्द होनी चाहिए जैसे इंदिरा जी के जमाने में हुआ था।
What is your name? Balinder Singh. As a Sikh, is going to be allowed to wear his turban.
जब मैं भारत में होता हूं तो मुझे कभी भी ऐसी कोई प्रॉब्लम फेस नहीं करनी पड़ी। किसी भी धर्म के लोगों को भारत में कभी भी कोई परेशानी नहीं आई है।
वहां की सांसद हैं, समझ लीजिए सांसद, और अकेले नहीं मिले, सब सांसदों के साथ मिले।
We take a moment to introduce our esteemed panelists. I'm joined in by Mr. Rohan Gupta, who's a spokesperson for the Bharatiya Janata Party, Pushparaj Deshpande, who's a spokesperson for the Congress Party, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, who's a senior fellow at the IPCS, and Mr. Javed Ansari, who's a renowned senior journalist. Many thanks to you, gentlemen, for joining in. Of course, Mr. Deshpande, if I could begin with you. Is Rahul Gandhi forgetting that he belongs to a party which back in the year 1994 had sent the leader of opposition to argue for the case of Kashmir at the UN headquarters in Geneva, and today he's hobnobbing with those very politicians from the United States who are against the cause of Kashmir?
Hi Akanksha, thank you for having me on your show, and a very good evening to my fellow panelists and our viewers. Firstly, leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi met a delegation of senior US policymakers in the interest of deepening ties, which is in India's national interest. One of the delegates happened to be Representative Omar, who is not just the deputy chairperson of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, but also very close to the presidential candidate Harris and her running mate. The meeting was public and everything was above board. If the government of India suspects anything is wrong, they can summon the US ambassador and lodge a formal protest. There is no need for this smear campaign in the media. Secondly, in public life, we often meet a number of people. That doesn't mean we endorse all their views. Just to give you an example, Rahul ji has often met Advani ji and Gadkari ji out of respect and in the interest of forging consensus on India. He also praised Prime Minister Vajpayee just yesterday. That doesn't mean he endorses everything they say and do. A dialogue doesn't necessarily mean blind endorsement, unless of course you're in the BJP. It can also be a respectful dialectic. Thirdly, if the BJP is so insistent that nations should not interfere in each other's sovereignty, something which I agree on, why did Prime Minister Modi campaign for a candidate in the US? Why does the BJP Overseas Unit actively campaign for right-wing parties and candidates in various nations? Doesn't this tantamount to interference in the politics of other nations? Doesn't this compromise our relations with progressive governments? Fourthly, the BJP's problem with the LOP meeting Representative Omar is because she condemned the BJP's treatment of Indian Muslims and boycotted PM Modi's speech in the US Congress. But the crux of BJP's argument, unless I'm wrong, is that an Indian policymaker shouldn't meet someone who has negative views of the Indian government. Firstly, criticizing the BJP government doesn't mean criticizing India. Every nation loves India and wants to collaborate with us. They have a problem with BJP as a party, how it treats Muslims, how it backs perpetrators of crimes against women, how it undermines the constitution, and how it interferes in the politics of our nation, other nations. But if the BJP genuinely believes Indian policymakers should not meet foreign leaders who are critical of our government politics, why weren't they incensed when Prime Minister Modi made a surprise visit to meet Pakistani PM Nawaz Sharif on his birthday? After all, Pakistan still imports terror into India. Similarly, why is Prime Minister Modi hobnobbing with
I'm
China's
sure,
leadership?
Mr. Deshpande, you will agree that
I
the
haven't finished my
situation
point.
after that visit to Pakistan by Prime Minister Modi has deteriorated enough.
And let me finish my
let me
point.
now
Let
allow
me
my
finish my
other
point. Let me finish
panelists
my
to
point.
speak. I have
He
given
still
you
continues
enough
to
time.
hobnob with
Rohan
China's
Gupta,
leadership.
why is hobnobbing with Ilhan Omar so problematic when Rahul Gandhi himself has endorsed India's foreign policy when it comes to terror and talks not going hand in hand between India and Pakistan? Then why hobnob with an Ilhan Omar, who particularly is known for her anti-India stance on Kashmir?
Akanksha, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Akanksha, after viewing this picture, if any Indian, even a normal Indian, meets Ilhan Umar, I think that is not in favor of the country. I think anybody, Rahul Gandhi is not a normal politician now, he's the leader of opposition. He goes and meets anybody, even a normal person. It's not an open meeting, it's not a public meeting that our audience comes and shakes hands. No. He's met the delegation, and one person who is part of the delegation, the same person has visited POK. The same person has been against India from the beginning. The same person has always introduced resolutions against India in American Parliament. And you are telling that it's okay? No, that's not okay. Even if a normal person Googles and finds this picture, he will not meet this person. And you are justifying this. And this is not, see, Akanksha, all the time, this cannot be just by chance or a mistake or, error. This is deliberate. You want to send message. In opposing Modi government, you are opposing the country now. This is against India. Mind my words here. When the lady visits POK, it is not against Mr. Modi, it is against India. And you are trying to justify that? Absolutely no words for this kind of incidences, Akanksha. And this is not the first time.
All right, I'd like to bring in Mr. Ansari. Mr. Ansari, there's a reason why I gave the example of what happened back in 1994. When it comes to certain issues which are to do with the national spirit or even perhaps with national security, India has always had a very united, unquestionable, non-negotiable stand, something that we witnessed ourselves. Because remember, it was not just A.B. Vajpayee who had accompanied or rather represented India in Geneva. He was accompanied by Manmohan Singh, by Mr. Salman Khurshid as well, even by Mr. Farooq Abdullah, that entire delegation that represented India when India had to fight for the cause of Kashmir. And thanks to that very, very clever thinking by Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao, that India was saved from UN sanctions. Would you not agree that the kind of role we are seeing being played by today's leader of opposition is there's a marked difference between what the idea of an LOP back then was versus now? Mr. Ansari, can you hear me? All right. I think there's some audio and video issue with Mr. Ansari's frame. While I request my team to look into it, Abhijit, could I take that question from you, please?
I'll tell you why this is so problematic. She doesn't just challenge Modi. She's free to hate on Modi. She's free to hate on the RSS. She's free to hate on the BJP. Anybody is. The problem is she ends up visiting Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and challenging our sovereignty over it. This is a woman who's very closely associated with CAIR, which is known very significantly to get funding from the ISI, but also is very close to Hamas and other Muslim Brotherhood-linked terror organizations. She has repeatedly raised the concerns of these terror organizations, trumpets a line that is very close to these terror organizations, mimics their talking points in every single forum that is there around. She is not just anti-BJP RSS, she's just plain anti-India. Now, I take Mr. Deshpande's point well. The problem here isn't that going to meet Nawaz Sharif or going to meet an official government representative. The question is, what if the leader of the opposition, who's a cabinet-ranked person, comes to India, say the French or the British cabinet leader of the opposition comes here and demands to meet engineer Rashid or Amritpal Singh? That's what we're talking about out here. This woman has been a shill for every terror organization there is. She has, in fact, she has been the recipient of something like $300,000 worth of lobbying funds directly by the ISI.
All right.
Directly by
How would Mr. Deshpande respond to that? You know, that's a very valid point that's been highlighted by Abhijit over there when he's talking about the kind of funding she received. And then we also saw her very much in on the soil of Pakistan occupied Kashmir.
Yeah, I again want to say the same thing which I said earlier. I want to reiterate, a chance meeting with someone doesn't mean endorsement of their views. That's the first thing. And the second thing is the allegations that I haven't finished, please, sir. I haven't finished, please, sir. And the chance, and if the honorable spokesperson has such a lot of information, I'm sure the US government would love to know that ISI is funding one of their Republican senior leadership in the Democratic Party. I'm very surprised that the President Biden and Vice President Harris haven't acted against her so far.
All right, Mr. Deshpande, I want to make a small interjection over here. No, I think the leader of opposition has completely broken away from precedent, because remember, Pramila Jayapal is also one of the US lawmakers who is known for her anti-Kashmir stance. No, Mr. Deshpande, you have to answer the question I'm posing. So why is the leader of opposition breaking away from precedent that was set back in the year 2019 when a Dr. S. Jaishankar ensured that Pramila Jayapal is not, she's excluded when he was hosting a meeting with various US lawmakers. He ensured that Pramila is not part of that meeting simply because of her anti-Kashmir views. So if India is setting the tone in terms of foreign policy, shouldn't India's leader of opposition also honor it?
I agree. Can I just make a quick response?
I'm glad you say that you agree, but doesn't seem like your leader of opposition actually does.
The leader of opposition is following Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi has met the Chinese premier 30 times when they have captured 2,000 square kilometers of Bharat Mata in Ladakh and 60 kilometers in Arunachal.
That's another claim, Abhijit Mitra, that's another claim that's being made by Rahul Gandhi. And let me tell you, Mr. Deshpande, it is not 2,000. Rahul Gandhi has claimed
China to clandestinely meet CCP officials. The BJP party, not a policymaker. The BJP has sent 12 party delegations since 2008. 6 of them happened under Home Minister Amit Shah and Home Minister.
All right, Abhijit, before I bring you in, Mr. Deshpande, quick question. What is the basis of the sweeping claim that's been made by Rahul Gandhi about China occupying 4,000 square kilometers of territory in India?
He's making this based on factual reports that are coming out in in the US. It has come out. It has come out by
in New York Times, in Washington Post, in The Economist.
Colonel Sushant Singh, Lieutenant General Panag has said the same thing yesterday. You can go and check his Twitter. You can see Lieutenant General Huda. They're all senior, respected army officials.
Abhijit Mitra, please go ahead.
First of all, this was not a chance meeting. The meeting list was published 2 days prior. It was well known who was going to be on the meeting list and who was not. So let's not pretend this was a chance meeting. Second of all, if you remember during the height of the Doklam crisis, I had put out several satellite maps at that time showing you exactly where the Chinese positions are. Now, people can say what they like. The problem is the maps don't bear out any further Chinese incursion after 2030. Okay. Now, and the surprising thing is all the people who claim this are simply unable to prove anything with maps because all the cartography goes against it. Third, there is a big difference between meeting the official of another state and somebody meeting a non-equivalent lower than you representative who is particularly vitriolically anti-India. Ilhan Omar is nothing. She has no official position right now except the deputy chair of the Progressive Caucus, which is anyway a bunch of left loonies as there is. So in what capacity? Look, it's his right. Nobody is denying Rahul Gandhi has a right. We're questioning his judgment over meeting somebody as toxic and virulent as Ilhan Omar, a woman who has supported Erdogan in the past while ignoring all his massacres of his own people, his support of ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Syria.
Right.
This is a woman who regularly takes money from the Qatar royalty, which is known as the biggest funders of terrorism anywhere on earth. All right. So there is a quantitative difference out here. The Russian foreign minister meets Blinken. That doesn't mean they're not fighting over Ukraine. There's a big difference between that and what the leader of opposition gets to do and what even Jaishankar gets to do.
I'd like to bring in Rohan because I see he wants to make a point. But Rohan Gupta, many are also wondering why hasn't the BJP raised eyebrows at the presence of a Ro Khanna at that meeting as well? Because Ro Khanna is the first Indian American to have joined a Pakistan Congressional Caucus in 2019. He's somebody who's condemned the idea of Hindutva, the one that is also preached by, say, likes of Veer Savarkar. Why have you not objected to a Barbara Lee also being present over there in that meeting? She's a self-styled Modi hater who even wrote
Absolutely.
to President
It's a
Biden
very
back
good
in
question.
June 2023. She had objected to the president hosting Indian Prime Minister to a state dinner.
Akanksha, it's a very good question. I would like to reply to that because when it comes to country, see, against Congress party, they can criticize BJP leaders, they can criticize BJP as a party, they can criticize Mr. Modi as a leader of BJP. That's okay. It's under their purview. But when you are against the country, you are meeting the person who is against the country, that is not acceptable. That is the basic difference. It is the beauty of our democracy that you can definitely oppose Mr. Modi or BJP in the individual capacity as a party. But here, he is not a simple leader. He is a leader of opposition. If he's meeting anybody on delegation outside the country, I think the list should be properly vetted. And that's what I say. If that person is selected after due diligence and also Mr. Rahul Gandhi or LOP meets, there is a serious issue there. That's what I'm saying. In hating Mr. Modi or in opposing Mr. Modi, they cross the line of hating India or opposing India. I think anybody who simply does the Google and find these pictures, anybody under the sun, if he's the advisor of LOP, they will not allow this meeting to happen or that person to be part of the delegation. It is as simple as that. You cannot justify that.
All right, Mr. Deshpande,
you should apologize. That's
Mr.
it.
Deshpande, Gurpatwant Singh Pannu has now said that Mr. Gandhi has justified the Sikhs for Justice's global Khalistan referendum campaign. Do you now admit that the way that analogy was drawn, even if the leader of opposition was trying to address the issue of religious freedom in India, that was a wrong analogy? Because by giving that analogy, today he's only given more support to a person like Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, who is a terrorist, a branded terrorist in India.
I want to be absolutely clear, Akanksha ji, the INC doesn't support any secessionist movement or anyone who holds such views, not now, not ever. We have lost 2 prime ministers and countless leaders to maintain India's integrity. Now, even though the BJP is desperately trying to link some person's views in some nation to Congress party because of a coincidental meeting, Punjab isn't buying whatever the BJP is spinning. We've had a Sikh PM. Sonia Gandhi ji and Dr. Manmohan Singh have apologized for 84 in Parliament and in the Golden Temple. And since then, the Congress has been elected multiple times in Punjab. So I don't think this is a valid issue. The second point is that he was making an illustrative example. He was basically saying that Sikhs and all minorities should continue to have their right to cultural practices. And an example pointed to Sikhs wearing turbans and the cutters. He did not say that is not happening. And thirdly, it is factual that in India, 7.38 lakh Muslims have been rendered homeless because 1 lakh homes have been bulldozed with the last thing without due process.
Then you ought to be talking about Muslims, not talking about Sikhs, who perhaps are the most protected.
I just explained, Akanksha ji, that it was an illustrative example.
It's the most ironical analogy, considering we've seen the Sikh genocide of 1984. Let me bring in Abhijit Mitra. Abhijit, you heard
for which they have apologized in Parliament and for which Punjab has forgiven Congress party. Let's move on. The Congress party has apologized for it in Parliament and in the Golden Temple, and Punjab has voted in the Congress party multiple times after that.
Rohan,
we continue to be apologetic.
Are you saying, Mr. Deshpande, that if there's a theft in your house and you extend that apology, is that an apology? Because, having a Sikh Prime Minister apologize for the massacre against Sikhs, does it even count as an apology?
Democracy. The people get to decide. People get to decide what is right and what is not correct.
All right, let me hear what Rohan has to say. Abhijit, I'll come to you. I see Mr. Ansari has also just joined in. I would like to take a question from him. Rohan, quickly.
Yeah, Akanksha, point is very simple. It is a point which is made by Mr. Rahul Gandhi, which is not correct. How can you give illustration which is factually not correct? You are questioning the whole Sikh community and you have given ammunition to the terrorists sitting outside India. I think this is the worst ever possible thing from any LOP for any country, going out of the country, talking about the country and getting support from the terrorist who is sitting outside India. What are you talking?
Abhijit
You are
Mitra,
questioning security.
we've seen Rahul Gandhi trying to cultivate this image of a hardliner against RSS. You know, he's compared RSS with Muslim Brotherhood. So if he can break away from the history that an Indira Gandhi shares with an RSS, or perhaps also a Sonia Gandhi who never openly condemned the RSS, if he can break away from that past which respected RSS when it came to the higher quarters of the Congress party, why can't he openly condemn the 1984 genocide? I'd like to, you know, many say that yes, he has supported he's endorsed that apology that had come in from Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. He has also endorsed what the mother had to do when she went to the Golden Temple, but he's in fact abstained from openly issuing an apology.
Akansha, see, the problem here is the level of conversation in India about pogroms has descended so much that we're talking about getting away with killing 3,000 people with a mere apology. I'm sorry, killing 3,000 people plus is not a theft where you say, maaf kar do, bhuka tha, okay, maaf kar diya. 3,000 people were killed. I remember in Khan Market, where I used to live opposite in Bharti Nagar, people had tires put around their necks and they were burnt alive. Rajiv Gandhi was sitting at that time playing the fiddle or God knows what at that point of time. I'm sorry, you don't get away with an apology for things like that. If that is the case, there are thousands of murderers serving out life sentences. Nirbhaya ke hatyare agar apologize karte, you would let them go. What kind of nonsense is
Mr.
this?
Deshpande, how do you call it an apology when we've seen how Jagdish Taitla has been honoured when he's asked to join the yatras? We've seen how you've also honoured Sam Pitroda, who said that hua to hua, and then he's elevated to senior level positions. We've seen that remark that had come in from Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi back then earlier. But yes, we've seen Manmohan Singh also issue that apology. But I'd like to, in fact, quickly bring in Mr. Ansari also, but Mr. Deshpande, I give you 30 seconds.
I continue to hold by what I said. What happened in 84 was wrong, continues to be wrong. Manmohan Singh apologized about it. Sonia ji also apologized about it in Parliament in Golden Temple. And the fact of the matter is the Congress party suffered in 85, in 89, and so on and so forth. We are an elected democracy. It doesn't resolve what happened then. It continues to be a dark blot in our history, and we continue to be ashamed of it. But the fact of the matter is, Punjab has punished us and has moved on. We are an elected democracy. A media panel of 4 people cannot be judge, jury, and executioner. It is the people. The mandate of the people is ultimately what decides what happens.
All right.
What is right.
Mr. Ansari, I'd like to bring you in. First of all, thank you for joining in. Do you think that the analogy that was used by Rahul Gandhi yesterday when he talks about how Sikhs are unsafe, the BJP clearly would want to see this more as just a lot more than an analogy. But do you think that that is the reason why somebody like a founder of Sikhs for Justice, who's a wanted terrorist in India, somebody like Gurpatwant Singh Pannu has only been emboldened to say that what Rahul Gandhi said yesterday is exactly why that justifies our global campaign for a Sikh referendum for Khalistan?
No, so what is the question?
The question is only that, do you think that it is what Rahul Gandhi said that emboldened Gurpatwant Singh Pannu to make that statement today? He said that it justifies our referendum demand.
Kancha, assuming that Rahul Gandhi had not said what he said, nothing would stop Pannu from doing what he did. Pannu has been active in an anti-India campaign, trying to foment trouble, trying to rouse the Sikhs against the country from long before Rahul Gandhi made this statement. Yes, Rahul Gandhi was trying to make a larger point about the situation of minorities in the country. I do agree that the example, the analogy was not entirely appropriate. Rahul Gandhi needs to weigh his words a lot more carefully. He needs to be careful about what he says. He's no longer just the leader in India's opposition. He's now the opposition leader, and therefore he needs to be very, very, very careful. People can argue whether it is true or not. Yes, Congress has a lot to answer. 84 was a blot. I lived through 84. I lost some very dear friends. So that is something that must not repeat itself. But was 84 the only thing that happened in this country? Just at least belatedly, even if it was a Sikh, it was a Congress Prime Minister who apologized. What about what happened in 2002? Has anybody ever apologized? What about subsequent, all the lynchings, all the beatings, all the victimization that takes place in the name of religion? Has anybody even condemned it, criticized it? I mean, it's very easy to ask questions of people in the opposition. How about it's time now that we started asking questions of those in power?
Rohan Gupta.
Whose actions are leading, whose actions are aggravating.
Rohan Gupta, please go ahead. Some very solid, concrete questions being raised over there by
I'll answer
Mr. Ansari.
Akanksha, first of all, we are debating this on statement of Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who is now LOP of this country. And he made a clear-cut comment outside country that Sikhs in this country are not safe. They are not able to wear turban or go to Gurdwara and all. We are where this point has come from, right? We can keep on talking about apologizing. We keep on talking about 1984. This is inside our country. You are going out of country. You are telling something which is not true. And terrorist, the Khalistan terrorist who is sitting outside, he is supporting your statement. I think you are giving wrong ammunition. The whole country, we know that as a country, we are fighting against Khalistan in Canada, outside Canada, and giving this kind of support.
Talking of misrepresenting facts, Abhijit Mitra, quickly I'd like to bring you in. What is one to make of misrepresenting or glossing over facts when we know that China is on a steady decline, whether it is their GDP or even in terms of youth unemployment? The latest World Bank data indicates 17% is what it's risen to in August. And Rahul Gandhi, in fact, goes out there, claims that the West and India have handed over their manufacturing to China, and the unemployment we are facing is far more than what China has.
Look, Rahul Gandhi has some very strange ideas of economics. Yesterday, the Indian Express article of his admission to St. Stephen's was put out from the 1980s. He got 49 in economics. This is not a person I'm going to take seriously on anything economics. I don't think it's misinformation. I think he's woefully misinformed. That's about it. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he knows economics.
Mr. Deshpande, your closing thoughts before I take them from Mr. Ansari as well.
Two quick comments. One is that if we extend the same argument that Rahul Gandhi's comments could have emboldened people who are taking things out of context, extending the same logic, would the release of terrorists after IC 814 didn't they embolden the IS and the Mujahideen to attack Parliament in 2001?
But you do agree it was the wrong example, right?
No, one second. No. I'm just saying that's the first point I'm making. The second point that I'm trying to make is that again he said we need to protect minority rights so that Sikhs and other minorities continue to practice their cultural practices. That
then
was an illustrative
talk
example.
About that particular minority group that he was trying to refer
about
to.
GPA, about the fact about what he said about manufacturing.
Mr. Deshpande, Mr. Ansari, when it comes to comparing India at a time when we've with China, when we've seen an Intel, when we've seen even Apple bringing manufacturing units to India, is that the right thing to say? Because the facts certainly don't indicate so, that India's unemployment is higher than China's or even the GDP.
Akanksha, there is a tendency...
Akanksha, can I come in?
No, let Mr. Ansari answer that.
Okay.
There is a tendency amongst politicians, and this is common to most, which is you talk up your own achievements and you run down your opponents. And in doing so, you're not always entirely accurate. Sometimes figures are exaggerated to make the point.
Mr. Ansari, are you saying that World Bank data is also exaggerated?
I'm not saying World Bank data. I was talking of politicians. Unless you consider the World Bank a politician, then it's something very different.
No, but I'll have to go by data, and I'm just quoting data over here.
That's the point I'm making. That politicians sometimes twist facts, sometimes twist figures to speak for themselves. As far as this question of discussing or dissing your domestic opponents abroad is concerned, I believe in the old convention of not discussing domestic politics outside India's shores. But who broke that convention? Who started criticizing the opposition? Who started? Till day before yesterday, my good friend Rohan Gupta was on the other side criticizing the very same action. I'd be very interested in knowing whether his views have changed now that his positions, now that his...
Akansha,
Rohan Gupta, I'll give you 10 seconds to explain.
I think, Mr. Ansari, this is precise reason why people like us who are in politics to contribute, they had to hear about their conscience, because you cannot go above the country. The whole world is praising India. The economic development is highest across the world. 14% of the iPhone are produced outside China for the first time in the history of Apple. And still Mr. Rahul Gandhi has no words to praise this government. I think that is the problem.
No, perhaps that's not the job of the leader of opposition, Rohan Gupta. The leader of opposition would want to highlight issues, but issues which perhaps hold some merit and hold some ground. Many thanks to you, gentlemen, for joining in on this discussion on Plain Speak. And now coming up next is the high drama that has ensued on the streets of Shimla. This over the illegal construction of a mosque. Demolish the Masjid. That's the demand being raised by Hindu groups. Has Congress government mishandled the entire controversy? That's the question we are probing in just a bit.
National security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases. First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
But the people
I'm
on television saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with.
Welcome back. Now, Shimla has witnessed chaotic scenes today as locals, including Hindu groups, staged protests against the alleged illegal construction of a mosque in the hill town. Hundreds of protesters have in fact been defying prohibitory orders that hit the streets, toppling police barricades, clashing with the police. Security personnel have also resorted to lathi charge and water cannons to control the crowd. Hindu outfits continue to demand demolition of the illegal structure. The congressmen, on the other hand, have claimed that the law will take its own course and accuse the Bharatiya Janata Party of politicizing the entire issue. The question is, how could a large number of people gather despite prohibitory orders in place? The Congress leaders in Himachal itself are saying that the structure was allegedly illegal. So why did the Sukhu government not take any action on time? Why didn't the authorities seal the structure when the dispute arose? So did the Congress government mishandle the entire Masjid route? That is the question that we are looking at now.
हालात नाजुक बने हुए हैं, बड़ी संख्या में यहाँ लोग लाठीचार्ज यहाँ पर हो रहा है। सीधी तस्वीरें देख सकते हैं, लाठीचार्ज, वाटर कैनन का प्रयोग यहाँ पर हो रहा है, आप यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं।
हम तो यही बोलेंगे ये मस्जिद हटानी चाहिए और एक सही फैसला सरकार को सही निर्णय लेना चाहिए।
हम पे लाठीचार्ज हुआ है, ये हमारे को दमन करना चाहते हैं, ये हमारी विचारधारा की एक इनकी सोच है कि इस मुद्दे को राष्ट्रीय स्तर पे उठाना है।
मुझे लगता है इस मुद्दे की गहराई में जाना चाहिए और ये जो नई परिस्थितियां बनी इसके कारण क्या रहे और इससे लोकल डेमोग्राफी पे कितना फर्क पड़ रहा है।
Dr. Nikul Patel, who is the leader with the Congress party, joins us today on this debate, as does Mr. Sanjay Rana, who is a political analyst, also backing the BJP. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, who is a senior fellow at the IPCS, continues to stay with us. Mr. Rashid Sharif, who is the president of the SIMPLB, which is the South India Muslim Personal Law Board. Many thanks to you, gentlemen. Dr. Nikul Patel, first of all, the biggest question of the day, could such high-handed behavior by the police be avoided?
See, definitely, if you see, the police must have avoided, but the mob, the way taken had law and order into the hand. Already we have, government had issued 163 section under new law, and everything has been accepted that definitely there is an illegal construction, there is a matter is sub judice. The government is ready for all the actions. Already stated we are not going to spare anyone who are the culprits.
Dr. Patel, I'm going to request my team to look into your audio, but I'd like to quickly bring in Abhijit. Abhijit, the question that everybody is asking is that whether it is the municipality or even the government in Himachal, both belong to the government. why the demolition couldn't take place earlier when we've seen the Himachal government be in power, especially the Congress government, since the year 2022?
So that is the real miracle of the situation. The police are protecting an illegal structure out here. They're actually beating up people who are exercising their democratic right to protest. Peacefully protest, might I add. This is, we are not saying any of this. This was an RTI file. It was a Congress minister who said, first of all, the land was illegally grabbed. Then the first structure was built without permission. There was no permission for it. Then three more floors were added to it without any permission. Nothing was done there for 2 years. All right. And it's continued construction like this. Now, when people want it demolished because it is an illegal structure, it is the Congress protecting an illegal structure. They are using the force of the law to protect an ab initio illegality and continuing illegality. Have you ever heard of this? This is literally like the police. If you call 911, we don't have 911 in India. We've got a different number. But just using an Americanism out here, you call 911 and say, hello, there's a guy trying to murder me.
All right.
It's like the police coming and standing outside and saying, press log, please let the murder get over, then we let you.
Let me quickly bring in Dr. Patel. Dr. Patel, the Shimla Municipal Corporation and, of course, the state government both fall under the Congress party. Why couldn't Mr. Suku's government take action earlier? I'm sure you will agree that timely action could have saved such a situation.
Yeah, very correct. Timely action by Bharatiya Janata Party would have been not reached to this level. If you see, it's a 2010 matter, and from 2012 to 2022-23, BJP was ruling in Shimla Nagar Palika, and they have not taken the cognizant action.
And fair enough, in the last 2 years, who's been in power?
That is what I am telling now. See, now the Congress MLA had brought everything into the picture because we are ready to demolish the illegal thing. Now, after that, the people have come to the road and...
You know, it's very weak of a government whenever they place the buck onto the opposition being in power at a particular time. I'm also quickly going to bring in Rashid Sharif because I'm hear you, Mr. Patel. But Mr. Sharif, many would want to know why has the Waqf board suddenly woken up and taken charge of the situation by taking ownership now?
मैं ये बात बताना चाहूंगा मैडम कि पहले कि आप ये चीज को समझना जरूरी है कि प्रॉपर्टी वक्फ बोर्ड की है। प्रॉपर्टी वक्फ बोर्ड की है। अगर 1 फ्लोर लीगल है, अगर 4 फ्लोर इलीगल है, तो ये कॉर्पोरेशन का काम है। ये पब्लिक का इन्वॉल्वमेंट की जरूरत नहीं है इसमें। ये पब्लिक जो हजारों लोग मस्जिद के पास जमा होके जो आज जो हो रहा है, जो स्क्रीन पे देख रहा हूं मैं, पुलिस बिजी है, पब्लिक बिजी है। मस्जिद इलीगल है तो कॉर्पोरेशन का काम है।
शरीफ साहब, आप ये मानेंगे कि 2023 में ही पार्टी बनी है वक्फ बोर्ड इस पूरे केस में, ये आप मानते हैं?
बिल्कुल मैडम, अगर वक्फ प्रॉपर्टी
तो 2023 से लेके 2024 हो रहा है, आप कुछ क्यों कर नहीं पाए?
नहीं मैडम, ये आप देखिए, बीजेपी की गवर्नमेंट थी, आप मस्जिद बनी वहां पे।
2023 में जब आप आए हैं तब कांग्रेस की गवर्नमेंट थी।
जब 23 में गवर्नमेंट, इससे पहले किसकी थी? बीजेपी की गवर्नमेंट थी। बीजेपी ने कुछ किया नहीं। उसको बीजेपी चाहता था कि ये इशू होना, ये पब्लिक को आर इन्वॉल्व करना, इस तरीके से शिमला में पूरा हिंदू मुसलमान का फसाद होना, ये बीजेपी चाहती थी। इस वजह से ये सब आज हो रहा है, वरना ये पब्लिक का क्या इंटरेस्ट है इसमें? अगर इलीगल है तो जाके म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन जाता, उसको है सो बात करता। अगर मस्जिद है, क्योंकि मैडम हम सोचते हैं कि ये अल्लाह का घर है, ये अल्लाह का घर है, मुसलमान है कि हमारी इबादत का है। आज हम ये नहीं पूछते आपसे, हाँ राम मंदिर परमिशन लिए नहीं लिए राम मंदिर का, या हम बताओगे किसी को पूछते भी नहीं, हम बोलते भी नहीं। ये जहाँ पे मंदिर और जहाँ पे मस्जिद आ जाती है, वहां पे हुकुम सरकार को सोचना चाहिए। अगर लीगल है ओके, इलीगल है तो आप बिठा कर उसको लीगल कर, तकलीफ क्या है इसमें? तकलीफ 2-3 फ्लोर अगर इलीगल है, नीचे अगर आप परमिशन है, ऊपर नहीं, तो आप बिल्कुल बात कर सकते हैं और ऐसे उसको लीगल कर दे सकते हैं। ये सब इशू की जरूरत ही नहीं थी।
All right, Sanjay Rana, many questions are raised that why didn't Jairam Thakur's government take enough action? They were very much in power, that too in the year 2017 when the mayor also elected was from the BJP.
Akansha, good evening to my fellow panelists. First of all, it's not matter of who's taken action, who's not taken action, who's doing what. The matter is why the people are behaving like this and why they are so much anger in Himachal Pradesh. There is a reason behind it. The reason number one is demographic changes which is happening. The incidents, if you look at the Shimla nearby location where incidents happened, there was only 10 people were there, and then if you look at in last 1.5 years, it's become 200. Suddenly number has been increased, and these people have been,
but Sanjay, and I'm sure you will also agree that demographic changes don't happen overnight or in a couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. It obviously is happening over the period of time. Number one. Number two, when we talk about people are shifting, coming, they keep on telling a Congress other party leaders saying they are from UP and Bihar. UP and Bihar people know Hindi, how to speak Hindi. The people, those who are coming from, those who are Bangladeshi and the Rohingyas, they don't know how to speak Hindi. That is the problem. That's why all agitation is happening in Shimla. It's not because of one masjid. Obviously, any infrastructure, any structure which is illegal, obviously government has take a cognizance and demolish it. Whether it's a mandir or whether it's a masjid, doesn't matter. But why Congress government is not doing? Because they're the vote bank.
Right. Dr. Patel, Dr. Patel, many would want to ask that why should the matter even reach the court when the municipality is against, is very much with the Congress government? Take action. Why should it have even reached the court?
See, whenever any matter becomes sub judice, definitely the present administration has to look into it. And if you see, the action must have taken very initially when it has started building that particular mosque in the regime of BJP. My BJP friend is telling about demographic changes. I think the demographic changes, what he wants to convey is the illegal immigrants that comes from outside India. Now, again, the international borders are in the purview of central government. So they again want to claim that it is due to Congress. I really feel ashamed of listening such statement from a good person of BJP like him. Thirdly, now we have given assurance. It's a Congress MLA brought to the notice, and suddenly everything has emerged out in the form of what agitation we find today in Shimla. Now, maintaining law and order into the state is also responsibility of the state government, and we have assured everyone that we are not going to spare anyone who really had done illegal construction. So people has to wait for the matter that is right now sub judice.
All right, Abhijit Mitra, on the entire aspect of demographic change, there is also a report from 2018 which clearly states that the government, which was the BJP government that time, had hired Rohingyas for sanitation work. So clearly the demographic change has not happened just in the last 2 years.
No, it's happened over a very long period of time, over 30, 40 years. And the BJP also doesn't come off blameless in this entire thing when it comes to demography. They should have never let the Rohingyas in. They should have never allowed them to be resettled in different parts of India, most worryingly in Kashmir and things like that. Remember, Sheikh Hasina herself had called the Rohingyas a highly disruptive, highly radicalized influence. She didn't want them in Bangladesh, but it was the same Congress party that was welcoming them in. They were going on saying you need to give them refugee status and God knows what not else. So, but that is down to the weakness of the BJP government. I'm not blaming the Congress for it. That said, we need to be very clear about something. This is an illegal structure. All right. An illegal structure, all that is required is 24 hours notice before you send the bulldozers in. It is really that simple. This has gone for adjudication because the government out there does not want to bring down an illegal structure. Was the BJP complicit when the first floor and everything started? Absolutely. But now that you know it is an illegal structure, once the entire illegality of it is known, what is preventing you from taking the bulldozers out?
Abhijit, I'd like to in fact close in with Rashid Sharif's thoughts. Rashid ji, Sharif साहब, अवैध निर्माण के बारे में अगर कहा जाए तो उसको नीचे गिराना ही होगा. वक्फ बोर्ड ने अगर 2023 में रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ली तो वो जो इलीगली कंस्ट्रक्टेड स्टोरीज थी उसके ऊपर चुपचाप क्यों बैठे हुए थे? रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी क्यों नहीं ली गई?
जो बना कंस्ट्रक्शन होना वही गुनहगार नहीं है. इसमें म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन भी बराबर उनके सामने, नजरों के सामने अगर कंस्ट्रक्शन हो.
तो शरीफ साहब, अगर आज ये इमारत अगर गिराई जाएगी तो आप कह रहे हैं कि वक्फ बोर्ड का पूरी तरह से सपोर्ट मिलेगा, ये एश्योरेंस मिलेगा मुझे आपसे?
बिल्कुल मैडम, मस्जिद को गिराने की तो बात ही नहीं. ऑलरेडी हम लोग बाबरी मस्जिद का सदमा आज तक भुगत रहे हैं और दूसरा सदमा अब हमारे को नहीं चाहिए।
हम
दूसरा अगर आप
इलीगली
उसको वाकई
कंस्ट्रक्टेड
अगर
स्टोरीज की बात कर रहे हैं।
अरे एक मंदिर नहीं है, एक मस्जिद नहीं है, 100 मंदिर है इलीगल। वो खाली एक शिमला की मस्जिद नहीं है, कईयों मंदिर मैं बता सकता हूँ आपको इलीगल है, कईयों मस्जिद की।
बताइए ना।
All right, Sanjay Rana, quick 15 seconds to counter that.
Yeah. He was saying we cannot demolish because it's a masjid. Why is not demolished? It's an illegal infrastructure which we need to be demolished. Number one. If you look at Shimla, near about 30 mosques are there, masjids are there, and if it is illegal, any mandir, any masjid, I'm checking.
All right. I'm afraid I'm running short of time. We'll have to leave it at that. Many thanks to you, gentlemen, for joining in on Plain Speak. And with that, it's a quick wrap from my end. Up next is the Hard Facts with Rahul Shivshankar.
Co-powered by former Chief of Staff of 4-star General has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former National Security Advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books, with nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president, in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow, and I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
Excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases.
Viewers, Rahul Gandhi is now hobnobbing in America with a US lawmaker that is distinctly in Pakistan's camp and is the supporter of some of the most illiberal Islamist radicals. We can even safely take the liberty of calling her a Pakistan puppet. Naturally, Rahul Gandhi's meeting with US woman, Ilhan Omar, has kicked up a storm. Ilhan Omar has been previously ticked off by the Ministry of External Affairs here in India for violating India's territorial sovereignty by making a visit to POK, Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, which is India's territory, and passing anti-India remarks there.